Hello everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog and welcome to my top comic books of the week. I noticed that I've been recommending mainly X-Men, Sandman, and Locke and Key comics so far, but that's because I'm still trying to read up on more comics from all the comic companies, and it might take me a while to reach all the comics. However, if there are any comic books that you think I should check out, please feel free to comment below and tell me some other good comics that I could check out. This week I have more comics that I would love to share with everyone, and here are my top 4 comics of this week. Comic book pick number 1, Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Written by Frank Miller, artwork by Klaus Janson and Lynn Varley, published by DC Comics, era 1980s. There are many stories about Batman that really shaped Batman into the famous character he is today, but there was one story about Batman that really shaped his dark personality, or in this case, brought back the darker version of Batman, and that was Batman The Dark Knight Returns. This story is basically about Batman, who is now an old man, getting out of retirement to become the Dark Crusader once again when various crimes starts rearing up. Now, when I heard that this was the Batman story that really brought back the dark character of Batman, I just had to give this comic a shot and see what it was about this story that made Batman to such an iconic character he is known as today. Well, for one thing, Frank Miller's writing was just as brilliant as he made Batman into a much darker and grittier character that is willing to torture his enemies to get what he wants. I will admit that this version of Batman was a lot different from the Batman I am usually accustomed to, as this Batman is darker, but it was also an interesting view on the dark side of Batman's character that we rarely see. It was also interesting seeing that this story takes place when Batman is a much older man, and after he had retired, and when I saw Batman going back into crime-fighting business, I was elated to see what he would do as an older man. Also seeing Batman take on a new recruit who is a young girl named Carrie Kelly, and making her the next Robin, was a nice change to the status quo of the Batman comics. Klaus Janson and Lynn Varley's artwork really gave this comic a gritty and dark feel, as the images of Batman are much more intimidating, since Batman is much larger and muscular than he ever was shown. Comic book pick number 2, Locke and Key, Crown of Shadows, Volume 3. Written by Joe Hill, artwork by Gabriel Rodriguez, published by IDW Comics, era 2010s. Joe Hill's Locke and Key series just continues to get better and better every time I keep reading the series, and so far Crown of Shadows is the best volume I have read from this fantastic series. In this volume, now that Kinsey has gotten rid of her fears and head games, she is taking on more dangerous risks than she ever has before, and Zach Wells has now found the Shadow Key and is planning to use it to get the legendary key that he has been looking for in the past 2 volumes. Personally, I really enjoyed this volume the best because it was great seeing how the Locke kids are still trying to get over their father's death, while Kinsey is portrayed as a much stronger character ever since she got rid of her fears. I also love the way that Joe Hill had created a truly horrifying mystery surrounding Zach Wells, and how he tries so desperately to find the legendary key that has been mentioned in the previous volumes. That part of Zach's story has really got me geared up for what is to come in the future volumes of the Locke and Key series, once Zach finds the key that he is looking for. Gabriel Rodriguez's artwork is really effective, especially of the shadow creatures that Zach Wells conjures up as they look dark and sleek, and it really brings out the frightening nature of these creatures. Comic book pick number 3, The Dark Phoenix Saga. Written by Chris Claremont, artwork by John Byrne, published by Marvel Comics, era 1980s. For many years, I have been searching for the most influential X-Men story in history, and it has to be The Dark Phoenix Saga. The Dark Phoenix Saga was the storyline that put the X-Men on the map, and it was about how Jean Grey discovers the dark power harboring inside of her when the Hellfire Club try to release the Dark Phoenix powers out of her, causing mayhem for the X-Men and the world. This is easily one of my most favorite X-Men stories of all time, because not only was the artwork stellar from the 1980s, but the story touched on deep themes that really made this story really memorable. Chris Claremont has done an excellent job of writing the story, as not only do we feel horror at what Jean Grey has done as the Dark Phoenix, but we also get some emotional moments from the other X-Men, as they have to contemplate about whether or not they should kill Jean Grey when the Dark Phoenix possessed her. John Byrne's artwork is a classic, as the characters look truly realistic and the action sequences, especially with Jean Grey becoming Dark Phoenix, is drawn expertly well. Comic book pick number 4, The Sandman, The Doll's House, Volume 2. Written by Neil Gaiman, artwork by Mike Dringenberg, Malcolm Jones III, Chris Bachalo, Michael Zulli, and Steve Parkhouse. Published by Vertigo Comics, era 1990s. After reading the first book in the Sandman series, Preludes and Nocturnes, I was excited to get to the second volume of the Sandman series, The Doll's House, and man was I in for a surprise. In the second volume of The Doll's House, there are many stories going on in this volume, which includes Dream still trying to restore everything that happened in his kingdom after he was kidnapped in the first volume by trying to find his missing subjects, which include Corinthium, Brute and Glob, and Fiddler's Green. Meanwhile, in another part of the story, a young woman named Rose Walker sets out to find her missing brother Jed after she discovers that her grandmother is still alive. This volume is just as fantastic, as there are many different stories in this volume that really stood out to me, especially the first story, Tales of the Sand, which relates the sad tale of an African queen named Nada, who ruled the city of Glass, and how she fell in love with the mysterious Lord of Dreams named Kachul. I love the way that Neil Gaiman provided suspense in all the stories in the volume as we start learning more about Dream as a character, while seeing a new character named Rose Walker trying to find her lost brother. Probably the most disturbing thing I found in this volume was the fact that there was a convention for serial killers in the second half of this volume, and I often wondered to myself about how the policemen never noticed about that. The artwork done by the combined efforts of Mike Dringenberg, Malcolm Jones III, Critch Barchalo, Micah Zulli, and Steve Parkhouse are amazing as they all contribute brilliant, dark, and gritty artwork that really brings out the dark mood of the stories. The best thing I love about the artwork of the Sandman series is that even though you have so many different artists working on one title, the story itself is still able to propel the series forward, while the different artists working on the title provides more variety for the stories. Well, that's my top comic books of the week. I would highly recommend these comics to both new and old-time fans of comic books. And if you are a new comic book fan, or if you want to find a comic book that is great for reading, then feel free to check out my top comic books videos in the near future for more comic books to choose from. Also, since these are just the short reviews of the comics I have picked out for each week, if you want me to do a more detailed review on these comics, then feel free to comment below and I'll see what I can do about it. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.